Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. Game 2, best of 3, first upper bracket matchup in the CIS group of DotaPit Season 5. We've got Virtus Pro taking on Vega. You guys weren't able to catch the action in Game 1. VP was able to take a 1-0 lead off the back of some great Nyx Assassin play from Pasha, and Ramsey's Ursa was just impossible to deal with for Vega's squad. But they will go back for their signature Mag Sand King in this second game, and we'll see how they fare. Shadow Demon as well going to be slipping through the pool because of the OD ban in the first phase.
Outside of that, at least between these two teams, IO is unlikely to see the light of day. Some regions, maybe, some teams, maybe, but not here, probably not today. So, yeah, Shadow Demon as the opener is already going to force, well, probably at the bare minimum, a Luna ban. I mean, Mirana Sand King are pretty decent versus the Luna, but Illusion Cancer for Virtus Pro seems to be at least on the table now that they have a Shadow Demon going for a Kunkka as well, who's somehow still in the pool. Is looking pretty attractive now they have a Shadow Demon for VP. They'll be able to do what Vega couldn't if they went for a Kunkka, which they're not going to, but just by guaranteeing setup, right? Guaranteeing setup is so huge, but instead they're going to have this very fun and once again interactive combo of mass illusions flooding your base.
Yeah, Omni Knight seems like a good hero this game. Everyone deals magic damage so far. I guess Luna can do some physical as well, but that's a little bit into the later stages of the game. But I would be flabbergasted not to see Omni removed from the pool in this second phase. Either way, both teams going to go pretty team fight oriented thus far. Just a little bit safer later on into the game with the slow chipping away of the Shadow Demon disruption illusions. That is a possibility for VP going forward. But in this one, we talked about the reliability of Vega to fight on Mag's Blink Dagger being picked up by the Slardar. He's going to have a lot easier time farming on the Sand King than he would have on the Slardar. So you can more often than not guarantee it's going to be a quicker Blink Dagger pickup for him. And either way, with the Burrow Strike initiation, the Leap as well available to the Mirana, they've got a lot of mobility in this opening as well. So I like the direction they're going in response to kind of the shortcomings of their draft in Game 1.
And even if you don't get a fast Blink Dagger on Sand King, with the Mirana on his team, he can still be pretty effective just because of Moonlight Shadow, just because Shadow Demon and Luna are fairly soft, and Sand King just ends up doing a lot of damage just by being in a fight. So this is just a safer hero, a more consistent hero, I feel, Sand King over a Slardar, at least if you're looking for someone for Mag to play, for the offlane, for initiation, or for primarily initiation purposes. But Mirana Sand King, maybe not to the level of Luna Shadow Demon, but they do work pretty well together in the fact that they just have stuns that set up for one another, and that Moonlight Shadow is, of course, huge for Sand King. Getting more angles to Burrow Strike, being a little bit more patient with that, just getting the jump, being able to scope everything out beforehand. It's always going to be a good skill, Moonlight Shadow, but it gets really good when you have someone who also is looking to initiate with you. So just a two-man kill duo, just Sand King and Mirana. We could see them, if they have Blink Daggers or not, just looking around for Shadow Demon and Luna kills.
Kunkka is going to be removed from the pool. Jug Invoker taken out by Vega, and Vega is going to have this next pick, so they could go for an Omni Knight. It could be a possibility, but either way, they have a lot of illusion clear already available to them with the Caustic Finale, with the double Starfall. Presumably that will be coming out for the Mirana, so it feels like in some respects they do have answers to the opening here of VP. You also mentioned the squishiness of this opening from VP, and there's a lot of damage, especially in the early mid game, coming out from this Vega side. So they've got team fight in spades in the opening. Let's see if they go a little bit more support oriented in this third pickup.
Well, it is going to be AoE that you generally want to focus on, initiation you generally want to focus on whenever you're seeing a Shadow Demon and a Luna. As far as really powerful heroes still in the pool, I was not going to say Keeper of the Light, but Keeper of the Light is going to be picked up anyway. Yeah, seems like a pretty low-risk pick. You have the Blinding Light for Luna, which is incredible in the later stages, and funneling mana into Sand King and Mirana, having Mirana with Recall is obnoxious as all hell. So yeah, it is a hero that pretty much does it all without really being in trouble just yet. That's the only concern you have when you pick up Keeper of the Light, is that he's very, very easily killable by Nyx Assassins, which is actually looking like a pretty decent pick right now for Virtus Pro.
Yeah, Nick Assassin will come out once again on the radar of VP as Pasha played a great game on in game one and is not all that worried. He's not an offlaner that's all that worried about mana leak. Firstly, there was the nerf to mana leak, it costing 150 mana now, I believe at level 1. So that's going to be costly for Caudle to spam out. And Nyx Assassin is a hero that can kind of just stand there and carapace for the most part, or throw out an impale to any encroaching enemies. So he's got a lot of regen as well available to his name. Should be just fine in that offlane up against the Caudle. There were a couple of buffs though to the other abilities in Illuminate and Blinding Light for the Caudle, and you already mentioned the effectiveness, or at least on paper, of those abilities in this matchup. So definitely don't hate the Caudle pick, but I like the response a lot from VP, and we'll see what the answer here is from Vega.
Just pointing that out there, Lil Pudge is still a thing with the Luna, especially. That hero in like those siege scenarios, much like how we saw the Nyx Assassin work in the last game, it's pretty consistent. It works pretty well. So I'm just gonna put that out there for the future. But yeah, as to whether or not that happens, doesn't really matter right now. As Vega should be thinking about how they're gonna deal with the Nyx Assassin. We do see Slarks picked up pretty frequently because of their inherent kind of immunity to the Spike Carapace. Morphling, another hero that does do that pretty decently with the waveform, but perhaps most importantly is able to spam waveform with Chakra Magic. Yes, and with Recall, the mobility of Vega Squadron is going to be pretty darn insane. Like, Morphling's already really mobile. Mirana, kind of the same thing. Sand King, they all get Blink Daggers and Force Stabs and whatnot, plus Recall on top of that. You can split push and race Virtus Pro for towers pretty reliably, unless you're very far behind.
The one thing about the Morphling pick is not great in scenarios where he can have his mana burned, but he does have the Chakra behind him, as you mentioned. The other thing is they're giving away some pretty potentially strong illusions to the Shadow Demon on the other side. So not only does that help with shoving out lanes, potentially in team fights that's a little bit more of an edge case, but it does help just get farm for solo on the Shadow Demon. Being able to, every time he sees that Morphling, disrupt him, take his illusions, farm with them a little bit, and then we'll be able to, get him perhaps a Blink Dagger, maybe a Glimmer Cape, an Aether Lens, anything that will help ramp up the team fight of Virtus Pro. So I'm not a huge fan of the Morphling pick in this scenario. I feel like there were things that were a little bit more resilient to mana burn and potentially don't give away as strong illusions. But either way, it is going to be a very strong combination in lane, as you mentioned, with the constant spam of waveform. Recall is, the poor man's boots of travel for the Morphling in the kind of early mid game with the Caudle hitting level 6. So very, very good synergy within his own lineup for this Morphling here. And you touched upon Moonlight Shadow before. On top of Recall, it allows him to play very, riskily on this Morphling, very forward. He can just ask for a Moonlight Shadow, get recalled out with a couple seconds of invisibility that offers him.
And with the Sand King and Mirana as kind of like hold down the fort heroes, I don't really think he has to worry about being pushed in before he's really ready to fight, because unless Sand King and Mirana just get dumpstered in lane for whatever reason, they shouldn't need their full 5-man crew to take fights or near and around the Vega tier 2s. So Morphling should be able to just farm in the meantime. And again, if worse comes to worse, you just recall him back in. That shouldn't really be that much of an issue. Then VP throw a little bit of a curveball. Alchemist as the pick generally is on a slightly different game plan from Luna. Wants to play a little more of a farming game, whereas for Luna, she wants to be, at least as far as one-role heroes go, wants to be a little bit more on the aggressive side. But this is going to put the screws to the Morphling, because when he wants to farm Morphling, Alchemist is perfectly okay with that. And getting Luna a slower game is also not the worst thing in the world. Ancient stacks can be incredibly important for Virtus Pro, so Vega have to keep eyes on that, since they don't really have the ability to steal Ancients.
But they definitely do have the ability to fight in a choke and fight in close quarters. They have a lot of initiation potentially as well with the Mirana, Morphling, and Sand King, and all their innate mobility, as well as, generally speaking, their item builds. So definitely going to be a point of contest, as you mentioned, but it is one that it feels Vega is capable of fighting around. So I like the Alchemist pick here. I feel like they did lack a little bit of physical damage, in the first trio. Luna doesn't get there till a little bit later in the game, but Acid Spray will help out in that cause, and can also just make it difficult to defend the outer tier towers for Vega. You just throw an Acid Spray on the tower, let that nuke down the creeps, throw down your Shadow Demon illusions alongside that. Shadow Demon serves as well as kind of the poor man's Manta style for this Alchemist before he's able to hit critical mass. So I really like the Alchemist. I feel like this fits in very well with what VP are doing thus far, and it remains to be seen, if they can create enough space for him. Luna is definitely a hero that can fight early, but it's also a hero that is very squishy. So if not protected, can get behind fairly quickly. And this is a hero that, if she's ahead, and only continue to widen that gap with her innate farming toolkit. So definitely a hero that you want to see on the uptick for VP. They're going to round out this lineup with a support Naga Siren here. And this is something that we've seen FNG actually do quite a bit. So interesting to see Solo pick that up for his squad.
Ensnare setting up for Nyx Assassin, setting up for just Luna Beatdown. It's not the worst thing in the world. It is a little bit difficult to use Song of the Siren as an escape tool up against what Vega have, because Vega are so bursty, and now they're even burstier with the Timbersaw. So you typically want to use your Song of the Siren to get the Alchemist out of trouble, to get the Luna out of trouble. But looking at Epicenter and Mirana double Star Storm after Arrow, eventually like Morphling Shotgun, Timbersaw combos, it's really hard to time that. But as far as the early game is concerned, Lil being able to set up for a couple more kills here and there is always very nice. He'll eventually have more minus armor, so Alchemist loves that. Luna loved that as well. I'm not really huge on support Naga Siren in general, but it definitely has a lot of strengths and weaknesses in this last box up against what Vega Squadron have. Whereas on the Vega Squadron side, Timbersaw as the last pick, not a ton of stuns going up against Virtus Pro. So Timbersaw should be having a pretty decent time. And again, it's a very, very tempo-based draft, a very mobility-based draft for Vega here.
Another hero that's not great against the Mana Burn in the Timbersaw, but really good in the sense that a lot of this damage from the VP lineup is damage that's going to happen over time. And Timbersaw is a hero that feasts on long, drawn-out engagements. So I really like the pick in that sense. I definitely feel like there isn't enough burst, unless he's completely caught out in an eclipse to bring down this Timber. So I think it's a good pickup to round out Vega's lineup. But again, I feel like VP and Solo have done an excellent job throughout the draft. As you were, I'm not totally sold on the Naga Siren, but I think kind of any support they could have plugged in at that point, and I would have really liked their lineup. We'll see how they fare here, up 1-0 in this first best of 3 in the CIS region for DotaPit Season 5.
Shout out to Sioma for wearing the ugliest Mirana cosmetic of all time. Maybe ugliest cosmetic of all time, period. Gotta love it. I just have no respect for players who wear ugly cosmetics. So
that's harsh, man.
I'd love to see a game 3, but that would involve this Mirana winning.
I mean, it's festive. It's October. Halloween's coming up.
There's a butterfly on her face.
I don't hate it. Not that bad.
Okay. Sevia's no style confirmed.
You're gonna see me cosplaying this Mirana at the Boston Major, guys. Be sure to attend. But either
please do. Make sure you're riding your.
I only got Thursday tickets, guys. Rip. So I'll see you there one night and try and sneak in. Hopefully Valve isn't watching, but either way, you're gonna have perhaps a little bit of a skirmish. There's always a potential for a Sacred Arrow near a rune here early on, and Sioma hanging around, just gonna poke at Solo, but looks like he's gonna get that level 1 bounty rune or no one. So a lot of gold in his pockets. Gonna have himself an early bottle towards this mid lane, and Iceberg gonna be able to grab up the bounty rune in the bottom lane. It looks like he will take towards the mid lane. Always a good matchup for Timber 1v1 against melee.
We have a little bit of a lane mix up here as well. Mag gonna get a little bit of help from the Keeper of the Light to start things out, just versus the Luna. It's a hero that you can poke at pretty reliably without putting yourself at too much danger, but the real downside of this is that Morphling is going to be going up against a dual lane up towards top. Not the most dangerous of dual lane, especially both being at level 1. He is prepped with a lot of regen.
Ramses.
But, Ramses, yeah. Is he dead here?
Yeah, Burrow Strike into Illuminate. Very fast hero, though, early on. 335 move speed. Is just going to be able to walk away. But it's going to be very costly in terms of regen. She already had to drop down an Iron Branch to get that double regen. And she is actually going to suicide here. And I don't mind the decision from Ramses, honestly. I would have cost him way too much in terms of regen. And early on enough in the game, can just suicide, buy out the TP, come back to lane.
Well, Luna's back, and Luna with Shadow Demon is certainly a lot stronger just by having Lunar Blessing on a ranged hero. But Sand King, Caustic Finale, and Burrow Strike, even at low levels, is usually going to be good enough to land on a low range hero like Luna, regardless of whether or not this Keeper of the Light decides to stick around here. So Coddle right now is definitely earning his keep, but at a certain point, you don't even need this Keeper to really keep this Luna down, or at least guarantee a decent time early on for the Sand King. Over towards the mid lane, we do have the Mirana trying to do what she can versus the Alchemist. As it stands right now, though, Timbersaw pretty much used up all of his mana, so can't really do anything there. So where's this Mirana actually going to roam into? She could, in theory, be poking at top lane, but Arrow and Leap is not the greatest when you're trying to kill off two kind of difficult to kill heroes in the Naga and the Nyx.
Yeah, and Morphling has done an admirable job here for FN in the top lane thus far. We saw, Luna leaving lane, and also they've shoved the lane underneath her tower, so she had a little bit of difficulty last hitting there, but still, 8-0 to the 5-1. FN will be facing 1v2 up against this lane, and you already kind of touched upon it. Where is the Mirana going to go? What's she going to get done? And, well, looks like she'll grab a courier with 1,000 net worth on it. Had the bottle on it, as well as a set of a boots, presumably, for no one coming towards that mid lane.
That is really, really tough for Alchemist until he... Okay, well, it's tough for the Shadow Demon as well. Another Burrow Strike, and they got the Luna as well. Line him up and knock him down. I don't really think they should be able to kill off a Shadow Demon while still having a Burrow Strike, but the cooldown is not the longest in the world. So, yeah, Vega's dual lane, Sand King, Keeper of the Light, doing some heavy lifting, and now the Alchemist is gimped as well. Vega are pretty much winning on... most of the fronts. Morphling's not having the best time in the world, but he can recover. Especially
considering the Alc had the start he did. Already crowed twice, and coming back out with the bottle the second round was punished. As it feels like VP kind of just forgot about Sioma on the Mirana, but all of a sudden Sioma has 1,100 gold on his Mirana. This dual lane is doing excellently, as you mentioned, and coming to a pub near you shortly. Sand King, Keeper of the Light off lane. Dota, eat your heart out. I don't know how this combination is working as well as it is, especially into a disruption, but this is a dream start for Vega thus far.
They're spamming out Illuminates. They have the Caustic Finale as well, so they're just shoving the wave in constantly and forcing these, again, low health heroes to play very, very defensively up against Burrow Strike almost, or closing in on level 3 rather shortly, so it's much easier to initiate on a low hero like Luna. Illuminate is also being leveled up, foregoing the mana leak in favor of just pure killing power. They need more heroes to go towards this bottom lane VP, but if you do that, you ease up on the pressure of Morphling, and suddenly he's able to recover as well. Vega they're absolutely crushing this bottom lane with just a very low commitment. Now they're going to chuck an arrow over towards mid lane. Alk is narrowly going to dodge it.
Yeah, no one will be just fine. Was pretty deep under the tower, but bot lane, Mag, under the cover of invisibility, Ramsey's trying to farm up this stack here. Could be in a little bit of trouble. Illuminate coming out is going to be short. Oh, it barely clips Ramsey's. Does take a little bit of damage here. Disruption should keep the Sand King at bay for Mag. But again, Ramsey's forced out of the lane, and keeping this lane constantly shoved with the Illuminate. They've been able to kind of control the pulls for Vega's side. It's the first time we see VP contest this stack here, and Lil is even going to have to rotate in to ensure that they're able to get the farm.
A little bit of extra utility here, but even then Naga Siren isn't able to stop this completely. They do catch Mirana with the net. That's about it though, and now it's Illuminate on to nothing again. That is the cost of Illuminate. It is pretty darn expensive mana wise, and Keeper will most likely be forced to funnel mana to himself 24/7. But already this dual lane is a pretty big win after what they've already did to this Luna, mess up her game completely, force another hero into this bottom lane. And of course, all these heroes that are going towards bottom lane are heroes that are not helping the Alchemist, who's going to get killed off by the Timbersaw in just a couple more right clicks. Iceberg, the Alchemist, it's a strength hero, always a good matchup there, even with no chain.
No chain at all. It was surprising for him to grab that kill. Did have the slow from the Chakram, though, available, as he did so well in this lane. 40 CS on the board for the Timber, sitting on level 7 after that kill, 2 levels higher than the closest competitor in the game. So looking very good for Vega here early on. Jump forward, Burrow Strike, Arrow's going to find Lil, and the Illuminate will finish him off. And the Naga Siren going to go down at the hands of FNG's Keeper. Now Solo in trouble as well. Illuminate is not only going to catch him, give them a little bit of vision. Sioma going to look to find him. He's going to try and juke them out using the Shadow Poison, but it's not going to be enough. Mag will land the point blank Burrow Strike. Sioma immediate TP out. Mag has 10 stick charges, got Tranquil, should be just fine to make it out of this one. Doesn't really even need that Sandstorm. But after a fairly quiet early game, they have been able to get quite a bit done with the Mirana here for Vega's side. Pasha, though, stalking Mag in this bottom lane. Spike Purpose comes out on the Caustic Finale. And we'll get the right click from Vendetta and the Impale. Pasha with tons of levels in farm out of that top lane. 35 CS on this Nyx Assassin will come out at the 6-minute mark immediately and net himself a pretty valuable kill.
They needed that kill so freaking badly. Like, this lane is absolutely trouncing them, but the rotation of the Nyx Assassin, just another kind of desperate play for VP in order to gain some semblance of control over this bottom lane. And again, every single time they do this, they're alleviating the pressure that they've already applied on the Morphling. Luna is not able to comfortably farm on the off lane, because if she shows herself off for a couple seconds, suddenly a Sand King's coming in, suddenly a smoke is coming in, and they found Solo in the middle of nowhere with an arrow and a nice whirling death there. Shadow Demon's going to be the wrong place at the wrong time, so that kind of sucks to be him, but it's just Shadow Demon, whatever. Where is Ramsey supposed to farm on this map? Like, if she goes to the bottom lane, the Luna, the Sand King will follow. Pretty much wherever the Luna goes, the Sand King at this point will follow. Not having level 4 Burrow Strike just yet, but it almost just doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, Mag's been doing extremely well alongside his keeper, and it is, you know, they are having to give a lot of attention over to this Luna, and as you mentioned, it's leaving the mid lane vulnerable here for the Alchemist. So everything coming up. Vega thus far under the cover of smoke. Sioma and Iceberg able to net themselves the kill as well on the Shadow Demon in the river, and now they've been able to drop down a little bit of deep vision as well. You talked about the farming potential for the Luna. They're going to know exactly where she goes. They've got one ward in each lane to kind of check out where she's TPing to, and they can constantly shadow her. Ramsey's off in the trees right now, and that's not what you want to see your Luna doing sub 8 minutes here into the game. She's sitting on 31 CS underneath the Morphling, who was against a 1v2 lane for most of this early game.
Right smack dab in the middle of the net worth chart. It's never where you want your safe lane carry to be there. Luna can, again, farm up, I suppose, by recovering in the Ancients, but then, you know, farm for her in the Ancients means that the Alchemist isn't getting the Ancients, and you really would like your Alchemist to be able to get that, especially considering how weak of an early game Luna has had already. Maybe it's just time to sack her and just go all in on your Alc, try to get some benefit off of that, but no matter how you slice it, VP and their Luna are in for some really, really rough times. Nyx Assassin's going to have to do some heavy lifting, and he has been playing pretty well so far, has played really well in the last game, but there are a lot of dire sentries, so good luck getting those Vendetta ganks out.
Yeah. Vega, they've recovered decently on FN up in the top lane. They've garnered a lot of attention in this bottom lane. It's just left their Timbersaw for Iceberg, who netted a solo kill as well as a kill in the river. Just free farm in this early game. He's got himself an Arcane Rune as well, so it's certainly fight ready if they rotate in on this Mirana, and he's going to have, you know, the makings of perhaps a Bloodstone here relatively soon. Anything he really wants, but the point booster is going to be picked up now by Iceberg. So well on his way towards his item progression, whereas, you know, you look at Ramses, who's maybe desperately trying to pick up a Dragon Lance here, but only the Band of Elven Skin on top of the Wraith Band at this point is a major concern. And under ward vision momentarily before walking towards this camp, Mag and FNG once again know exactly where she is, and they're able to take both last hits away from her. So it's just a constant struggle for this Luna to find farm.
We're also not really talking about the Timbersaw all that much. Versus Alchemist tends to be not really the most exhilarating lane matchup. The Timbersaw, though, 2 kills is getting a ton of experience, and that's really a problem for VP. Like, they have all these heroes that, you know, really need to get farm, but they're not really applying pressure. They're not really getting farm either. Iceberg is having kind of a free roll, and I say that he's going to dodge an impale. Otherwise would have been putting him in a lot of trouble. Now the Epicenter onto no one. Arrow to keep him there. That's a lot of damage. That'll kill off the Alc. Adding another kill for Iceberg. It just seems like VP don't really have those pressure heroes. It's only Pasha who can possibly apply pressure back towards Vega, because this Luna has been gimped so hard. So now you have a Sand King running amok, a Timbersaw who's running amok, all protecting a free farming Morphling. I don't know if Nyx Assassin can do it by himself. He really needs another hero to help him out.
So well executed there by Vega, expending the Epicenter, the initial dodge, coming out on the impale by Iceberg's Timbersaw, and then the arrow into the Alc, able to bring him down even through Chemical Rage. Iceberg with an Arcane Rune up in the mid lane, feeling pretty ballsy. Pasha going to join him, though. Mass TP's coming through. Nice Carapace to stop the chain, and they will be able to bring down this Timbersaw, which is a major kill for that triumvirate of heroes, and it will be Pasha to pick up the last hit there, but, you know, more importantly, 473 experience going the way of both the Alchemist and the Nyx Assassin. So it looks like Lil's TP was just a moment too late to share in that bounty.
We'll take the top lane tier 1 though while all of that is happening. So Vega, yes, loses Timbersaw. He is still mega farmed, so it's a pretty quick Bloodstone for him. even though he did die, yes, I'm pretty sure he's still going to be okay with how his early game is going, and Morphling is pretty happy about the status quo as well. Going to go for Lincoln Sphere first, most likely. It does get some pretty serious value up against VP. Then killing him off is going to be a difficulty, which they've never even attempted yet. Again, Pasha is the driving force here, and killing off Timbersaw is certainly not a bad way to start. Ancient stack-wise, there are none for VP, and that is a problem. Like, being this far behind, especially with this Luna, they at least need the experience given by an Ancient stack, let alone the gold. So I would like to see them start to go with that. It looks like, yeah, Nog Siren is the right idea soon.
Mag could be in a little bit of trouble. They're going to queue up the Unstable Concoction, throw it out as well, and they will have to back off with the Alchemist, but Pasha hits a 3-man Impale. Will be able to facilitate the extraction. Mag, he's going to be Demonic Purged up, in a little bit of trouble. We'll have to burrow out towards the east, but Iceberg going to be able to keep them at bay with the Chakram, and there's no follow-up damage really to come through without something like an Eclipse. Nixes most of their damage, especially considering the Alchemist was forced out early on. And in the meantime, all they need is FNG in this bottom lane to shove back Ramses and keep him from pushing in their tower. So Vega, despite that not going well in terms of them netting kills, they are both able to stifle any of the bleeding, and there isn't really much trade being found for VP, albeit Ramses did get a bit of time to farm and finished up his treads in the bot lane.
And no one's also pretty loaded as well. Got a relic flying out to him right about now with, of course, the armlet beforehand. So Alchemist is farming pretty much as well as you can expect an Alchemist to farm 13 minutes of the game. The problem is that it's just going to be an Alchemist with farm. As powerful as that is, he really does need allies near him to give him some defensive support, give him some offensive support. Until he's 6-slotted, Alchemist is not going to be doing everything just because Vega can't afford to ignore the vast majority of VP and just focus all of their attention at bringing down the Alchemist in the fight, or just, ignore the Alchemist and focus on bringing down that Luna, bringing down the Nyx Assassin first, and then taking the fight afterwards. So it is nice, of course, for VP to have a free-farming Alchemist, but he's pretty much down a hero, and that hero is Luna, who's once again under the gun. Moonlight Shadow to get into position. They put an Observe Ward down. Do they know that she's back here? She has a TP.
Recall?
Like, they're not going to go that deep.
Well, they do recall in Iceberg here, so they may just look to take this tower down with the ward vision as well. And they should be able to see any rotations in, and it does look like Ramses is just going to bail on this lane. They did have a ward expire here for the dire side, so but they will see her underneath the wave, so this should be a free tower for Vega here. And doesn't feel like there are going to be trades anywhere. FN, wisely so, is just going to look to farm up the mid lane in the meantime, as he got his tower nearby in case he needs a TP.
We're down for Vega. Of course, that's going to be pretty sweet once this whole Keeper of the Light recall shenanigans kicks into play. Not quite there yet. It's still quite a long ways away, but they do have the Blink Dagger on the Sand King. Functions in a very similar fashion. Just the more space you get to roam around the map, the deadlier the hero gets. Of course, you have the Epicenter back up again, plus the Burrow Strike, and even better, a target. Solo on the bottom lane. There's a Blink Burrow Strike with his name on it. Can he disrupt himself to buy any time? Yes, a little bit of time.
Definitive answer coming out, but he's actually going to make it away with the Demonic Purge slowing down. Iceberg will be able to dodge the Chakram. It was a little more exciting than we thought, perhaps, but Iceberg going to be able to make it away. And he will be just fine. His Bloodstone regen should provide him with more than enough to continue fighting if need be. But in the meantime, 14-minute Radiance did come out for no one. Considering his courier was sniped with the bottle on it and he had 2 deaths, this is a phenomenal timing for this Alchemist. And we already did talk about him having the armlet up and the poor man's Manta style in the form of his Shadow Demon. So if he can team up with the SD going forward, they can shove out these waves, gain themselves perhaps back a bit of map control, and more importantly, some farm for their cores.
Luna does have at least a couple of items coming out to her. Did she just... yeah, just a couple of bands. That's how sad it is right now. I thought at least Dragonlance. No, still not. 15 minutes in. They do see the Sand King in the woods. Did Nyx Assassin see him? Well, I think he saw him. Pretty sure he saw him. There's the Impale, though it misses! And a Burrow Strike back in with the Illuminate coming in as well. Mag's just going to cleanly blink out of there. Spike Harp's still available. They'll sing. Do they know? Well, they know that everyone's invisible. They may not know about the Timbersaw being yanked in, but it doesn't matter. They should be able to disengage unless this arrow lands. So they don't jinx it. There we go. Yeah. Clean disengage, I suppose, for VP. Yeah. But that should have been like a free Sand King pickoff. Just seems like, yeah, Pasha can't do it all again. Like, he's trying.
Yeah, it was an all-star in the previous game. Unfortunately for VP, he's been 0 for 2 here on pretty impact, what would have been impactful. Okay,
Oh, Ramses.
Eclipse top lane is going to be one to sound the retreat essentially for Ramses. He does pick up his Dragonlance, but that is going to be a massive window where Vega are just going to look to fight here, still having their epicenter and that fresh blink dagger from Mag. But yeah, unfortunately Pasha 0 for 2 on potentially influential impales so far. But Vega looking for blood top lane under the cover of smoke. They've got FN alongside them as well. He's got his Lincoln Sphere up. 3 levels in that adaptive strike, so quite a bit of nuke power. He's foregone the replicate for now, as he does have that recall available.
Oh, they're going in.
They're looking for Ramses. They will be able to run into the Luna. They find the Burrow Strike. Starfall is there, as well as the arrow, and all the nuke damage from FN is more than enough to finish off that kill. Ramses does end up falling, and falling he has all game, down to 5th now on the net worth chart, below the entire tricore of Vega's side, and Vega are in total control in this one.
The Keeper of the Light also starting to get some farm in the background. Hasn't died yet. Up against the Nyx Assassin draft is always a little bit of achievement for Keeper of the Lights. Once he gets the a little bit of extra time to farm, get that Aghanim Scepter up, that'll be about the point with that healing where Vega should be feeling pretty comfortable to make some pretty big objective plays, tier 2s, Roshans, and whatnot. And the Vision is, of course, going to help in that in a large portion as well. They maybe haven't done quite enough to slow down the Alchemist as they would like. Radiance at, what was it, like 13 minutes, now Travels and Yasha in addition to that. The Alchemist is getting about as free a time as you could possibly ask for, but Vega's spread of farm is good enough that they could probably handle this Alchemist, but they can't really sit back for too long, Vega, with letting this Alchemist farm. It, at a certain point, is going to add up, and they will struggle to kill him because Epicenter is great, but up against level 2, level 3 Chemical Rage, Epicenter only being level 1 or level 2 at the time, is not going to do that much damage.
Presumably they'll have an E-Blade at some point, so they will have a lot of burst with the Timber and the Morphling on top of that Epicenter, but definitely agree that the Alchemist is going to be becoming a concern sometime in the near future. He will be able to pick up an Ultimate Orb. That's going to help him out with the stats on the way to the Manta style, so going to get ever the more tanky on top of his Chemical Rage. Pasha, not sure if he was scouted under this sentry. There is a ward over to the east, but there was a very small window of overlap between the two wards. Either way, it did look like he was pinged out by Iceberg. Iceberg, though, is going to go in on his own, and the pullback, it's not going to be there in time because of the disruption, but the chain will. Iceberg finding a kill onto Solo under Moonlight Shadow, will be able to just walk it off. We kind of touched upon this in the draft. The Moonlight Shadow able to cover these skirmishes, and recall from the Caudal often going to be there if need be. To bring any stragglers back into the warm hands of his teammates. So FNG, you mentioned it, bottom lane on the Caudal is farming away and could have a permanent recall sometime soon. 1200 gold on top of that point booster, and not all that far away from his Aghanims.
Blinding Light also up against the Luna, so no right clicks, although it does seem like the right click Luna ship has kind of sailed in this game. She'll eventually get there, especially if her Alchemist is able to buy her a little bit of space, kind of the reverse of what it should be. But even then, Blinding Light is going to be a pain in the ass for her, pain in the ass for the Alchemist as well. Radiance can only take you so far in the fights outside of missing all of your right clicks. So Caudal farming is kind of a problem that you don't really expect to have as VP. It's usually like, oh, how do we deal with the Timber? So how do we deal with the Sand King? They do have to worry about that, but also how do we deal with this Blinding Light? Because you have to add even more in the way of itemization if you're going to get around that in a convincing fashion. So it just seems like this whole game is coming up big, and I just mentioned the fact that they also have Sioma Mirana, a little bit of a late start, but to support Mirana, starting to build up towards that Ags. So even she's going to start to kick into full kill gear.
Yeah, similarly to Vega, VP kind of being a little bit patient with their lead here, knowing that they have all these towers up. They've got quite a large portion of the map available to them to farm, and much like VP did in Game 1 on the Dire side, they've pretty much occupied the Radiant bottom half of the map for the beginning, and now are going to be able to kind of split up with their cores and farm. And FNG, he's been enough to kind of counter push for them almost the entirety of the game. It looks like they should be able to bring down this tier 1 in the offlane here momentarily, but 21 minutes in, certainly almost ideal here for Vega, how long they've been able to keep up their outer tier towers and have been finding farm with this Caudal in the meantime. There is the Ghost Scepter up onto FN, and he's got 2,000 gold on the way to that Eagle Song, so a lot of damage going to be offered to them here shortly. Pasha, though, bot lane, hopping around, does see the Illuminate, so should know that FNG is nearby. but not looking to initiate just yet. Does not have anything of the sort of a Blink Dagger or a Force Staff, and Vendetta on cooldown currently.
Shadows take us.
And now the Keeper of the Light is invisible. You got to go for it, not because it's a Keeper of the Light who's becoming really problematic, which is the case, but because you need those kills on the Nyx and just start building towards your own Aghanim Scepter. With the Naga Siren in the area, they should be able to get him if they land all their spells. Stun, Mana Burn, there's a net, but the Blinding Light's going to stop all that. Song is there to stop Iceberg. But this is supposed to be VP getting the kill, not VP desperately trying to retreat. And in the meantime, Vega are also contesting the ancient stack of the Luna, just messing with her a little bit. But Song being down means that Vega can't afford to make an aggressive play here.
Arrow, oh, he's barely going to whip onto Solo, but a waveform forward will catch him. Adaptive Strike is there as well. But FN, he's going to replicate out towards the top lane. Didn't want to hang around too long, leave himself susceptible to anything. But, oh, jumping forward with the Radiance. Trying to bring down Mag. Mag will be able to outdistance those illusions and blink away. For the time being, no casualties, but they do put a bit of a hiccup in Ramsey's farming plans, as they have been able to all game long. And take a couple last hits away from the Luna there before she was able to finish that off.
Alchemist is, not getting the benefit of the stack, although it doesn't seem like he really needs it. Soul Booster is up, Octarine, not too far away for him. Approaching that 6-slot status, and at that point, we might actually have to look at some of these Aghanim Scepter upgrades. Obviously, Nyx is insane, that's why he's building it himself, but all the other Aghanim's upgrades on VP are actually pretty darn strong. Not sure which one's the strongest here, probably the Shadow Demon, although at this point, you might want to just give it to the Luna, get a little bit of a little bit more Eclipse play on this already gimped right-clicker.
A little more beams as well. She can kind of shadow the Nyx Assassin from behind and drop it on him, and then when he initiates, the Eclipse can pop out right away as he exits invisibility. So a little bit of a kind of cheeky cheese play they can go for as well. They've got the potential Tranquility to come out from Lil. So with Pasha already building into his Aghanim Scepters, there are a lot of upgrades definitely available to VP aside from that one. And yeah, as you mentioned, Shadow Demon likely to be the first of those, but on the other side of things, Vega, they should be pretty happy with where they're at. Hood of Defiance, and it's going to be soon to be a Shiva's more than likely here for Iceberg, and help them push out the waves a little bit alongside kind of the Sand King and the Mirana and the Keeper of the Light. They're able to do that, and if they're just able to kind of play this war of attrition and constantly choke the map out, make the Alchemist less effective, force him to only shove one lane at a time, then Vega can take this later.
I mean, this almost, or I guess he is 6-slotted now. We'll call him 6-slotted now. Timing is generally when Luna Alchemist drafts look to push in and at the very least take tier 2s, right? Even, sometimes if you can, get Roshan, try to go for the high ground, try to take those Raxes at about this stage. Because Alchemist isn't really going to be getting that much significantly stronger. He'll replace the Iron Talon, yes, he can Moonshard and get those Aghanims that we were talking about. But as far as giant increases in power, Alchemist has pretty much hit his full stride at this point. So they ideally wouldn't like the game to drag on that much more beyond this point, but because this Luna has been just absolutely demolished, they can't really afford to go for that. So Vega should be able to spread the farm out on so many more heroes than VP. I mean, that's kind of a side effect of this Alchemist as well. He consumes the entire map, and that means that your Nyx Assassin isn't able to farm. He's had these two Ag Scepter components for a long time, finally picks up his third. Naga is packing the mech, and that's all well and good. She would love to get into a full, carry Naga Siren mode, but there's just not enough gold around the map to let Lil actually get to that point. So Vega will have more farm and more heroes, and that is going to be a problem for VP.
Speaking of which, Gem is going to be picked up on the Sioman as well. They've got FNG has the full Aghanims up on his Coddle before the offlaner from his or the offlaning enemy on VP side. So things looking good for Vega farm wise. It does feel like they've been a little bit passive though overall as a unit. It's definitely a team composition that wants to look to fight, and they just have not found the openings just yet. Arrow though just short of hitting Lil. Will be able to take some vision away now that they do have the Coddle plus Gem at this point. Song is going to come out from Lil, simply going to sound the retreat. It is a level 2 song, so not the longest cooldown in the world, not nearly as detrimental to use as the level 1 Song of the Siren. They will get a tier 1 out of it. You mentioned kind of them looking to push, and yeah, bot lane. Fresh E-Blade going to be used up to find a kill onto Luna or Ramses, and that is just going to be another big kill. And Stable Concoction going to fly out. No one, is he looking to fight this? Doesn't seem that's the case. We'll just throw his illusions out, look to shove the wave and look to keep Vega at bay. But they do find another kill, and they are able to continue to keep down this Ramses Luna.
See, immediately they see an alchemist teleport the Timbersaw and the Keeper of the Light into the bottom lane and start shoving in for this tower. No Song in the Siren means that if there is a fight, VP don't have that retreat option, and Vega most likely won't want to allow them to retreat anyway. So I think it is about time for Vega to force the issue. Unfortunately for their draft, they don't really have the best ways of killing Roche. They do have to worry about Nyx Assassin and Eclipse in that area, so that might take a little bit longer for them to actually approach towards. At least wait until the Morphling gets another right-click item, but slowly pushing in the tier 2s, the guaranteed initiation, almost guaranteed initiation of the Sand King still seems like a pretty safe way to go. But bottom line, if you're getting picks while not losing anyone as Vega, you can afford to just stall this game out almost indefinitely.
Yeah, and right now is perhaps the strongest that VP has been in the last little while with the position of no one's alchemist. He can pick up something like an assault cuirass here relatively soon, so definitely in a position that he's not super easy to bring down. And as Vega continues to scale and gain farm and get burst damage with their Morphling and their Timbersaw, he'll become a bit of an easier target. So patience from them is certainly not unwarranted in this scenario. But as you mentioned, Roche is perhaps not going to be the easiest route for them to find some security or some a little bit of insurance, just because they're not the greatest lineup at taking it.
Magnum Scepter is still not up on the Nyx Assassin. Like, he's not really able to fill his namesake role just because there aren't really many viable targets at this stage. Even the supports having their bulk items at exactly the same amount of HP on Vega, so that's a thing. But you can't really set up for any easy kills with the Nyx Assassin. You're really, really bad at farming creeps at this stage. I mean, Agnes Scepter is going to be really nice for the Nyx as far as defending from these Vega pushes, but it almost seems like this is just not a good time to be a Nyx Assassin. Like, there is no real way to create space or abuse space, even if you somehow are able to create it. So it's VP with an awkward set of heroes for right now outside of this Alchemist. This tier 2 tower bottom is somehow still alive. I'm not sure how that's a thing, but the Alchemist with his kind of tanky-ish illusions, trying his best to handle that. He is 6-slotted now. BKB is his choice. It's really good up against Vega, really good up against the shotgun of the Morphling. But I'm not convinced that this is going to be an item that he sticks with. I mean, usually it's going to be a plate mail item, Shiva's Guard, AC, or something like that.
Yeah, you figure there's something that would tank the illusions up a little bit more and just help him to kind of continue to shove the wave and gain some map control back. With these 2 tier 1s that they've been able to take down, these lanes are shoving decently with both the Shadow Demon illusions as well as the Manta style illusions coming out from the Alchemist. But he does opt for a little bit more of a fight oriented build here, and looks like VP may just looking to group up and do that relatively soon. They are a better Roche taking lineup. They've got the Song and the Eclipse around the pit. They've got the minus armor from the Acid Spray, the Lunar Blessing on their heroes, so they will be able to take Roche if they find an opening fairly quickly. But we'll see how this BKB ends up panning out for no one going forward. It does not really feel like he's going to be the target of the E-Blade for the most part, but definitely very nice to have up against the Morphling if he is.
Ramses also has his BKB. I'm going to call it right now. First usage of Luna BKB is going to be for a BKB TP, and she's going to be really sad. Because that's how this game has been going for Ramses. Like, this is a pathetic amount of farm in the Luna, and she's trying to sneak in some farm right now. There are a lot of heroes coming around, though.
And there's the BKB. Is there a TP follow-up?
Do it.
Basically.
I was close.
Basically the same thing. Not the most bold prediction, considering how things have gone thus far, but definitely an unfortunate usage of a 10-second BKB. And now BP, although they're looking to defend here, aren't necessarily in the best of fighting shape. But with bot lane shoving in, it looks like for now Vega will tend to that and continue to just farm away on their cores. Looks like they're going for a BKB on their Morphling as well for Vega's side, so maybe they are considering closing this out relatively soon before Luna can start to recover.
That is difficult, though. I mean, the Morphling is pretty darn farmed, and no one's going to doubt that, but as far as having a BKB is concerned, like, it is going to get some very serious value. Is he going to be able to output enough damage during that BKB to actually get kills? Because if you BKB on Morphling, odds are you're going to immediately get put to sleep by the Song of the Siren. So it'll be just Morphling trying to get kills, and I don't think at this point, outside of his Ethereal Blade shotgun, he'll be able to get a substantial amount of damage done at this stage. So it is a little bit defensive for my liking, but especially with the Nyx Assassin now completing the Aghanim Scepter, but it seems like it's a little bit too late to deviate right now. They're going to go into the Roche Pit, DD Rune on Luna. Look at that, she's finally doing some right-click damage in this game. They'll take down the Roshan easy peasy and get Ramses a double life.
Yeah, something that we talked about, that if they find an opening in this Roche, they will be able to melt it fairly quickly, and now Ramses will not have to panic BKB if he's faced with that same scenario going forward. But it doesn't look like Vega are deterred at all by this Roche attempt. The one thing though that you can say for VP's side is, even if Vega take a good engagement here, they don't really have any lanes in a great position to take any structures off it, and Roche is already gone. They will find no one though. He's a big kill. He's going to BKB up, and they are going to look to fight this. Moonlight Shadow is there. The Song of the Siren coming through from the south side will catch FN, but it looks like they're just going to extract themselves from the fight here, which is perhaps a bit odd for VP. They had everyone nearby. BKB was used. They have an Aegis as well, but they opt, perhaps with a lack of detection, just to back out here while Vega underneath the Moonlight Shadow. So Vega, they will smoke up and at least bait out 10-second BKB from the Alchemist.
I mean, that was so close to being disastrous from VP. If Vega were able to land an arrow, prevent the BKB from being activated, Alchemist had no Chemical Rage on at the time, so he was a pretty free pickoff. Sand King is here, and he shouldn't be here. Force Staff down, Bro Strike down. Is he going to actually make it out of here? He has a Blink Dagger as well. Okay. Well, scouting Sand King, pretty good apparently. But VP used the song to get out of there. Not really a terribly huge deal considering how slow this Vega game is actually turning out to be. But still, if they're really like that scared about protecting this Alchemist, that's something that shouldn't really be the case. Like, they have to have some confidence in their Alchemist to at least take a couple hits, to at most,
Right.
turn around and do some damage with this BKB as well. Seems like that Song of the Siren was just a little bit panicky because, Alchemist is in trouble. We got to get out of there, but you're not going to win a game by doing that. You have to actually let your Alchemist do some damage.
Still, I'm a bit concerned for Vega at this point. It does feel like they're a little bit at a loss with when to look at this high ground, and the more they stick around in this one without something like a Shiva's on Iceberg, they're not going to be able to push the lanes in response to what no one is able to do on his Alchemist. And he opted instead for the Lotus Orb in this one to, go the fight-oriented build. He went for a BKB, FN has gone for a BKB, and they just haven't been able to take full-scale engagements just yet. It feels like their itemization, coupled with how things are going in this game, is slowly but surely favoring VP.
And that is, operative word is slowly. Like, the Luna has picked up Manta Style, which is, I guess, kind of nice upgrade from the Yasha. Naga Siren not really getting into a damage roll just yet. Nyx Assassin also not really building up into many items. I don't think anyone has an Ags upgrade from the Alchemist, but hey, they're finally in a position where they're feeling comfortable enough to go for a tower push. Unfortunately, it's backdoor protected, so it's going to do very little. So, yeah, here comes the creeps. They can't fight over this.
Yeah, Pasha barely whiffing on the stun there from very long range. If it would have connected on Iceberg, he could have been in serious trouble. Definitely would have not BKB'd from that. But look at, with the Ags, extra stats from the Ags as well, Ramsey's doing decent work into the towers. Dragonlance, Ags, as well as the Manta Style. And a little bit of lag from VP side, but they will get this tier 2, and every outer tier tower they take here is just going to continue to solidify their ability to constantly push these waves out. And there's nothing really, there's no Ags even yet on the Mirana, no Shivas or anything of the sort, no double Chakram from the Timbersaw, and Morphling is naturally very single target oriented in terms of his damage output. So VP, they're slowly kind of clawing their way back into this one. Ramses, for the very poor or very unfortunate, whichever way you look at it, game that he's had, he is 0-4 at this point, and almost has as much net worth as Iceberg, who had an incredible lane and is 4-1 on the Timber. So VP feels like they're fairly comfortable with where this game is at right now.
Vega just weren't finding as many opportunities as I think we both were expecting them to. Like, they killed off the Luna a hell of a lot of times, but they couldn't find the Alchemist pretty much ever. They had the broken recall abuse and the Morphling with travels for a very long time. They only shotgunned one target, I think, since the Morphling picked up the Ethereal Blade. It just seems like Vega have had all these tools, but never really have been aggressively looking for these tools, despite having Moonlight Shadow on the Mirana. So it is kind of not Vega playing as aggressively as they could have, and that is kind of letting up on the pressure that VP have been experiencing this entire game. The tier 2 tower will ultimately be traded away. Morphling, of course, has recall on his side, has travels, so he's going to be in this fight. But this is actually pretty well timed by VP. Not only do they still have this Aegis, but the Darkness is also coming pretty soon, so the Illuminate's going to get a lot worse.
See if VP look to poke at the high ground. They can do so, relatively safely with just a couple of illusions, throw them up, and at least force back FN. But it looks like FN, he's probably keen to take this tier 2 in the bottom lane before looking to defend. And now looks like we will get back underway, and immediately under the cover of smoke is VP, perhaps looking for Iceberg here. They're just going to throw no one on the high ground. Ramsey's now up there as well alongside one of Lil's Naga illusions, and they are doing some decent work as FN does take down that tier 2 in the bot lane, and looks like he's going to continue to press forward. No, the Morphling will come back to defend his base as the tier 3 going down pretty quickly with the illusion spam coming out from Virtus Pro. And touch upon it, there's not much in the way of clear here without putting themselves in danger for Vega. I mean, Sand King is decent at clearing these waves, but you want to have him initiating. And now Sleep going to come out from Lil, going to sound the retreat, and it is going to be a level 2 Sleep. So that's 2 minutes of maybe an opening here for where Vega are looking for something.
Luna's Aegis is going to be reclaimed shortly, so Vega's timing right now is at least possible for them to find some sort of opening. They are heading in the complete wrong direction for that, however. Probably tier 2 at the bare minimum, but they also have to deal with Alchemist illusions. They're freaking everywhere, man. There's no creep wave here either, so backdoor protection is up and active for this mid lane. Will be dispelled soon enough, but there's no real kill opportunities here. VP, really nice retreat there. Really defensive, that Song of the Siren, but I think completely necessary given how much jump Vega actually have between a Blink Dagger, a Force Staff, and an Aghanim Scepter on the Sand King. I don't know how much range that is initiation-wise, but let's just say it's a lot. Yeah, so you don't really want to take any chances here as VP. Like, there's, as you said, starting to recover on this Luna. She's actually pretty dangerous at this point.
Yeah. With the help of the Shadow Demon illusions and her Manta style illusions, she's been able to kind of safely, keep herself postured up such that she's not vulnerable and still find farm across this map. So VP definitely in good shape, and we've been attributing the pace of the game to maybe a lack of aggression from Vega, but you also got to give credit to VP. They've been positioned so well that it's, if they die, they simply get picked off with one hero. The lanes are shoved out by no one elsewhere, so there's really no opportunity for Vega to find anything off the back of the few picks that they have found. So VP definitely stymieing the bleeding from that Vega has been trying to inflict on them. Only 10 kills for Vega, 37 minutes in here with an excellent team fight lineup.
This is also where the Gem of Truth and the Naga Siren get some serious value. Just pop those mirror images, spread them all around, and you're going to be 100% Moonlight Shadow proof throughout the entirety of those illusions lifespan. So just a whole bunch of wards coming out pretty much, and wow, the Eclipse being cast over the trees. Got the Keeper of the Light, and Ramses is in a bit of trouble. BKB is needed. Doesn't cast it. Arrow, stun duration is forever. Can they burst her down? Yes. Luna catches a break finally, and then immediately dies.
Story of the game thus far. It doesn't feel like that it's that big of a concern. Once again, the lanes are in a position such that Vega can't really do much with this. Roche is not spawning at least for another minute and a half here, but is a nice kill for them to be able to pick up. They don't expend a BKB charge on the Luna, however, and it just feels like it's a kill for the sake of a kill at this point for Vega. We'll see if they can transition it into anything else, but looks like no one will just continue to farm away here. That can upgrade himself with the Moon Shard. Has not given an Aghanims to anyone but the Luna, it seems, at this point. So can grab up one relatively shortly for the Shadow Demon, which could be nice in the fights to kind of keep the Timber or the Morphling at bay or force them out.
Level 2 travels is actually pretty good for the Alchemist here as well. With the Nyx Assassin on his team, you could do some pretty silly things with that. Like level 2 travels here, teleporting on Pasha, stun up Iceberg, get the kill. Obviously, this is just like right around the corner, but still Iceberg is not in a great spot either. He's going to be stunned up and Spike Carapace. Here's the Burrow. The BKB comes out, which of course dodges the Impale, but that's a 10-second BKB charge. Not doing all that much just yet. He's going to try to go for Pasha with the Demonic Purge, though. Not quite enough. He's going to get a little bit closer. Needs more spells to be casted, but with this defensive build, he's not taking any damage, but he's not doing that much damage either. Looking desperately for something. It's going to be a Courier ultimately, and Pasha to finally get picked off. It'll be the Morphling to find that Nyx Assassin. Timbersaw really, really needs to get this Aghanim Scepter together, which I assume this point booster is going to turn into.
Yeah, They need a little bit more damage. They need, more importantly, some illusion clear on their side, as we've been harping on constantly. But recall back towards FNG in the mid lane will be FN. They're going to assemble to try and take out this tier 2 already. No one preparing to nuke down the wave with this illusion, and brings it back. FN, though, he will be able to take out the tower in the meantime. Looks like they were able to do so, perhaps even through backdoor protection, but either way, it's simply a tier 2 at this point, and VP are still looking fairly fight ready. Luckily for the Iceberg Timbersaw, he was able to reflect the Demonic Purge with his Lotus Orb there in the bottom lane, and maybe that's what allows him to survive. Solo being forced to back off alongside no one there, but either way, he did expend a BKB charge for it. So as these continue to dwindle down for Vega, like, they're going to need to be finding objectives off of these fights as their BKBs durations are dwindling down, because the lower they get, the more work Luna as well as the Alchemist can continue to do in these fights, and Pasha with his Aghanims on top of that.
There's no reason for Vega to push this just yet. This Roche is, I think, Roche 3, so Aegis and Cheese should be picked up here. This is VP's biggest chance at actually, like, pushing back in a substantial manner. They're going to smoke up beforehand, expecting Roche on immediately afterwards, but they're pretty close to a fight. Found Mag.
Yeah, they're going to purge up Mag. He's going to get a stable concoction as well. Blinding Light is there to keep him at bay with the Aghanim's range. He is able to burrow away. Iceberg's looking for a fight here, though. He will BKB up, jumps forward onto Ramses. BKB going to be popped by Ramses as well. Iceberg, is he stuck right now? He's going to chain himself out. Eclipse will go off, not doing a whole lot of anything, though, as FN was under the cover of BKB. Jump forward. Epicenter is going to be there, but the disruption onto the Luna is going to keep her alive for a moment. Now will be brought down as FN gains himself a double kill. No one going to be able to TP out under the cover of BKB, and Vega finally taking a fight immediately to the top lane. Goes Iceberg to shove the lane in. FNG similarly towards the mid lane is going to be joined up by FN, and this is their window. This is the moment they need to crack high ground. 2 buybacks are available for VP's side, and they're clearing out the waves with the Nyx Assassin and the No One Alchemist. Mid lane, though, Vega going to be taking this tower down quick with the Morphling. So the buyback does come out from Lil, and she will immediately song just to delay things out here. Long range Impale is going to connect onto Iceberg. Really no reason for Vega not to continue forward here, though.
Daytime, they have the Coddle heal.
Yeah, a lot of sustain going their way and to their units, so the backdoor protection will not be there to serve VP. Jumping forward, trying to get some of these Morphling illusions to help their cause is Solo. He will get the Purge off onto FN as well. He's going to wait for him forward, look to bring down the Shadow Demon, is able to do so. Netted up. It's going to be reflected by the Lotus Orb and stopped by the Lincoln Sphere. And it looks like Vega should be able to get out here. They don't get a Rax. They do force a Naga Siren buyback. Impale going to come out trying to slow things down once again. FNG keeping Vega healthy here. He is low on mana, though, is the Coddle. And looks like with the Luna respawning, Vega are going to opt to back out here. So they get a tier 3. They get a buyback out of the Naga Siren. Is that really enough? Remains to be seen for them. But the second Roche of the game is up here in the pit, and they may take a look at this. They aren't the quickest at bringing it down, though.
Perhaps the most relevant game there from Vega was the fact that Naga Siren no longer has a gem. Murano, or they were able to grab 2 of them, and now they have an extra one in the base. So Moonlight Shadow, after having taken this Roach, which at this point Morphling can just tear apart because he has enough damage, 400 damage a pop is pretty good. They will be able to Moonlight Shadow, and at least that represents some way of getting a pick off so that they can immediately take a couple sets of Raxes, maybe just one. That'll probably be good enough anyway, but Moonlight Shadow is actually back on the table here for Vega. Plus they have the Aegis. This is really just a second Roche.
Yeah, just the one in the pit by VP. Well, where else do you take Roche, I guess? But yeah, just the one that they snuck with the Acid Spray and the double damage on the Luna earlier. So
Ramses.
Eclipse top lane, BKB popped as well. FNG going to be able to walk it off. They do expend the Moonlight Shadow for it, though, so that'll be, a couple minutes where, with the Aegis, they don't have that initiation available to them on top of the smoke, but it will be daytime, and as you mentioned, there's no gem on VP's side, and there is one, many, in fact, in the hands of Vega, so they can still look for a smoke initiation with the security of the gem in hand.
Probably use this Gem Keeper just to get a little bit of extra ward killing action before nighttime falls. So this is not the perfect time for Vega, but just picking up the Aegis, you don't really have that much time to be picky here. The VP side have got a hold once again. Nick Sasson is doing serious overtime work just with this mana burn. Like, this is really putting a little bit of an issue here for Vega and, of course, the Impales until he Shadow Demon gets popped off. So mana burn's not going to save him. Now Blinding Light's going to push him into vulnerable spot. First strike not quite going to land. Now they're going to jump in with the Mirana Starstorm. Doing some pretty decent damage. The Timbersaw is dropping low, but that's what the Aegis is for. Illusions are freaking everywhere, but they're being cleaned up pretty efficiently by the Vega side, but only range Rax is in trouble. VP don't really care about that. They will start to fight a little bit more seriously over the melee to put up the Song of the Siren. Next onto 3 heroes. Sand King still is in the back though, can prep up an Epicenter, so Song is just a stall tactic. Lands a 2-man Impale, which is I guess kind of nice, but there's no damage going into these heroes. Morphling is unmovable. He has the evasion, he's got the Blinding Light cover. Melee Rax still not dead just yet. There we go. Takes it down, and everyone else from Vega gonna make a clean retreat. Slow and steady Rax push, but hey, they get Rax in the end.
Yeah, FN just going to flutter away under the cover of his BKB. The residual duration is enough there for him to get out, and VP simply will lose a lane of Rax as well as expending the Song for the next little bit. So nothing much more for Vega to take, but they do finally get a lane of Rax, which will give them some creep momentum against this Alchemist. They've desperately needed that all game long, and now they can tend to these side lanes.
Luna Butterfly actually looking like a real carry hero. Not quite to the point of Morphling. He was Butterfly, I have Scotty, all these other items. Is just missing that Moon Shard before he's gonna be really topped out here. But still, Luna with the Shadow Demon might actually make a little bit of resurgence in this game through through illusion creation. As far as killing heroes is concerned, has always been pretty good at pushing out these waves. But Alchemist Ags number 2. Who's the lucky recipient? Is it Shadow Demon? Looks like he wants it.
Yeah, it's
there we go. Get a little bit more demonic purge up in here.
Yeah, for sure. Can drop them on both the cores on Vega's side, but with the BKB up on FN and now his MKB, he's never going to be missing because of this Radiance, and he's hitting very hard, again, as we've touched upon before. So, Butterfly, the one big item that the Luna is able to pick up, to some extent nullified here with this pickup from FN, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward in these fights. We've seen them maybe be able to bring down some of these some of the supporting casts from Vega, but killing FN has been a task that VP has yet to fulfill here, and going forward, it just doesn't feel like they'll have enough damage to do so, and FN, if he's alive for the entire fight, is going to be killing Virtus Pro heroes, so they'll march down the top lane. FN can be recalled here. He'll deal with the mid lane for a bit alongside Iceberg. We'll see if they're actually looking to take a fight here, but it looks like VP, seeing FN go towards that mid lane, is looking to initiate here, and they're finding the perfect hero to do it on if they can get down onto Mag here. The initiator for Vega, they do get the beam off, but Unstable Concoction is going to land far and away. FN now waveforming in. BKB's popped up plenty. Mag in a lot of trouble. He goes down immediately. Ramsey's standing tall and fighting with the Eclipse. They're going to bring down Sioma as well. FN still trying to do work, but he had to replicate out, it seems, and VP, they're taking over this fight with their initiation. They'll get the purge off onto Iceberg. He will be able to chain up towards the high ground, and will do a little bit of farming as he retreats out, but it ends up being a 2-for-1 thus far. Forcing up towards the hill is FNG to join up with his Timbersaw, and now looking for Ramses here. They'll mana leak him up. Lucent Beam is going to be there, but FNG is going to pay with his life. Just a couple right clicks. Ramses in trouble here, is just going to try and stand and fight against Iceberg, but Iceberg 20 stacks of reactive armor is just a little bit too strong for the Luna to man up against in this scenario, and Solo will be able to glimmer away. Does get another purge off onto Iceberg, will disrupt him up as well, but he's got no support inbound here. So losing Luna on the backside, certainly not ideal here for VP, and for VP, that was probably one of the better initiations they could hope for in this one, and they end up taking what is essentially a pretty equivalent trade overall. It doesn't really help them in the state of the game all that much. The top tier 2 does go down in the meantime, however, so they're gonna be able to kind of shove that wave and perhaps force Vega to go down that route for the next lane of Rex.
Catching the Sand King at that angle is perfect, and he didn't BKB, which would have saved him a lot of HP beforehand. We're seeing I think the most relevant thing out of that fight was the fact that Luna was able to man-fight Morphling for a good portion of that without just getting completely smashed. And that means Morphling is sitting there right-clicking someone he can't kill. No one is on the Alchemist, therefore, going to right-click everyone else. And he actually adapted his item build a little bit, grabbed himself an Assault Cuirass, so he's actually doing some pretty serious right-clicking damage at this point as well. He was, together with the Glaives bouncing to the Sand King, a good part of the reason why they brought him down so quickly. So for VP, that's a good showing of strength, but of course that is all predicated on the assumption that they get the initiation off onto a hero like the Sand King without him BKBing or blinking out of there beforehand, which is difficult to replicate in the future. But VP showing that they still can take these fights, even though Alchemist is pretty much fully 6-slotted. Well, he still has Moonshard travels to upgrade. It has been at that stage for a long time. Doesn't seem like him being topped out is really hurting VP all that much, as long as they can keep this Luna protected and maybe create some illusions of her in the process.
BKBs though are starting to dwindle for both sides, and Iceberg, we haven't seen him be as it doesn't feel like his net worth is reflected in the fights, but he now does have a Scythe of Vice available to him, and as the BKBs start to wear down, he's going to be able to do quite a bit more damage in this fight, and they won't rely entirely on FN going forward. So it does feel like Vega in a decent position as well. They'll posture themselves up in that top lane, as we mentioned. They've still got the tier 2 in the bottom lane, so shouldn't be all that worried about that pushing in while they make this attempt.
Impales are flying, arrows are flying. Everyone's just trying to look for that kind of lucky break pickoff, but in the meantime, FN, the Morphling, is going to be shoving this bottom lane as well. Vega may be able to just take a little bit of a stalled out engagement up towards top, just in order to get this Morphling a little bit of space to push on the bottom lane. It is daytime, so the Keeper Light does have that extra sustain source from the team, plus the extra vision as well. Morphling did sell out the Ethereal Blade for that MKB, so maybe not as threatening on a 1v1 basis as perhaps he could be with the different item set. But still, he is forcing VP to split up, and VP really needs to be close enough so that the Song of the Siren can cover everyone's retreat. Like, that's a big deal of why they need to stick together. They're going to catch the Timbersaw in a really awkward spot. Lots of magic being dumped on him with the reactive armor. It's not enough. He's just dying so quickly. That's Timbersaw down. FN's definitely going to try to poke at this bottom lane tower, but that's a big pick off for VP.
Yeah, it's going to deter any plans of Vega having to push forward. Takes a couple of Bloodstone charges off the board. I mean, they're not going to be able to get an objective off it themselves with the very low respawn time of Iceberg, but it is a nice pick for them, and it does waste a BKB charge as well for that Timber. Now down to 6 seconds. So a fairly important one, and a bit of a blunder there for Vega overall. Gonna push them back here. Morphling, 5,500 gold here onto FN, so essentially capped out, can grab up a Moonshard and second level travels, much like the Alchemist can, and will consume that Moonshard now.
Satanic on Ramses. This Luna is not going to get the benefit out of the Butterfly evasion versus the Morphling, but just with lifesteal alone can probably sit there and trade hits with the Morphling for quite a long time. Plus she has the benefit of glaving to the Morphling's allies, so I think just because this game has lasted 52 freaking minutes, this Luna's terrible start has pretty much been forgotten at this stage, as her 6-slot status is pretty much there as well. 3,000 HP without even having the Satanic completed on her. Almost 3,000 HP. Should be about like 33-ish with this Satanic, so she just has a lot of health. And Vega, they need to find an opportunity to force out a BKB and kind of kite her around a little bit if they're going to effectively deal with her through Satanic.
Yeah, the Agceptor Synth helping out in that cause, and definitely proving to be fairly tanky. I mean, FN in these fights, he's only sitting on about 2k HP.
Ooh, Naga Ags.
So there's the third Aghanims, which allows them to kind of answer up the sustain offered to Vega through the Coddle Ags with the Illuminate there. So that's going to be a lot of HP that they can return to their side and reset the fight. You talked about Ramses having the ability to man up with the Satanic. Add that on top of it with the sleep from the Naga Siren. So they can stand and fight for a long time for VP, and we saw the Timber get bursted down there. On paper, Vega have a lot of survivability in their Morphling and Timbersaw, but definitely seen VP have the potential to eliminate them fairly quickly. So VP, I mean, you expect an Alchemist lineup to cap out at some point, but to this point in the game, it does feel like they've still constantly been improving, but not much more to do. The ceiling seems at about this point here, 55 minutes in. Aside from the Moonshard, no one has nowhere else to go.
You can still eat his own Aghanim Scepter, give the Nyx Assassin one to force feed him some additional stats so you could sell his. I think you could sell it, right?
I don't think you can sell Nyx eggs.
Not on Nyx? Well, that's awkward.
Rip.
I'm sure if Alchemist tries hard enough, though, he can still jam one down the Nyx's throat and get him some extra stats. But, for himself, Moonshards, level 2 travels, it does seem like VP are pretty much done. Arrow, oh! I don't think that would have mattered because everyone's way too far away. It's more the principle of the matter there. But still, we are seeing this game really, really slow stall out, and Vega are topped out a little bit faster than VP. And everyone still has just like so much room to grow. Like looking at Naga Siren and Mirana especially as the kind of hidden heroes who can actually get some decent farm and contribute a hell of a lot with it. Naga Siren's not going to go for that right now, but Mirana is. Sheepstick, Aghanim Scepter, not your typical Mirana build, but still can do some really powerful things.
Yeah, Blink Sheep before a BKB gets off could prove to bode well for Vega in a team fight, but there is a reset with the song, so they're going to have to find a key target, perhaps who's a little bit out of position in order to utilize that Blink Sheep.
John's not dying. Got a Naga Siren illusion,
Arrow?
keeping eyes on everything.
Oh, stops the TP on no one. They will scout it out, but no one going to initiate on that Glimmer Cape there for safe measure, and they'll just throw in some more illusions towards the pit to ensure nothing is going on for Vega in the way of bringing down Roche.
Bottom lane will be held, but can Vega jump into Roche right now and clean it up before VP return?
They do have FN hitting very hard, and it looks like they should be able to bring it down. Well, they see someone attend bot lane, and immediately, decisively jumping into the pit is Vega. Should be able to get this now. But who's going to be able to pick up the Aegis? It's just Sioma on the Mirana. Or perhaps a second Sheep in the fight. They get the cheese onto Keeper, but at least deny it away from VP. By the way, it does seem kind of inconsequential at this point that they're able to bring down the Roche, but just a little bit of extra farm and experience going the way of the supporting cast. And you mentioned kind of the Mirana and the Naga potentially being that extra bit of firepower later on into the game. Both these heroes certainly have the inclination to transition into semi-carries.
Of course, more sheep sticks and whatnot. Those are usually those late game breaking items. Heroes like Keeper of the Light, Sand King typically farm pretty quickly. Like they don't have any issues clearing out neutrals or clearing out waves. So maybe for Vega, those heroes can grab one of those relevant items as well. Look at a hero like Shadow Demon, who typically has a little bit more trouble in building up towards those items. May or may not be actually achievable given this pace of the game, but the more items these kind of side support heroes are able to pick up, obviously the more relevant they're going to be, the more impact they're going to have. And along those lines, Naga Siren not going to go for any real carry build up necessarily, just a Lotus Orb for herself. So, just small items on the side. It's starting to get to that point where it's like, what sort of cost effective, always relevant item can we pick up on our heroes that don't really farm too well?
55 minutes in game 2 of this best of 3 Vega versus VP, guys. VP up 1-0. 60-minute game, only looking at 26 kills, and you can attribute a lot of that to perhaps Vega's maybe predictable movements, but VP's done a very good job of keeping their cores in safe positions and keeping their supports behind them, ensuring that when a pickoff happens, it's simply just a pickoff. And they've only given up this one lane of racks here, despite the huge advantage that Vega did have in towards that mid-game phase. But he's kind of put VP on his back for the most part, and kept Vega's push at bay on this Alchemist. They just didn't deal with him enough. They killed him once in lane, once thereafter, and kind of just forgot about this Alch. So VP still very much in this one.
Well, Alchemist is still not with that Moon Shards. At a certain point, it's like, what else are you going to do with 7,000 gold? Is there anything? Luna still has a Dragonlance to ship out, and of course, Moon Shards for herself as well. It almost seems like we're getting to a point in this game where items start to matter less. The fact that they're 6 slotted just means they aren't any more dangerous, but the items that they do have are whatever, not going to be necessarily game breaking. It's all about who gets picked off. Like right now we see Pasha stalking Sioma. Kind of. There's a gem on the Mirana and an Aegis, so it's not going to happen, but it's all about that initiation. Like Mag over towards the mid lane, it's going to determine how this game is actually going to break down. BKB to dodge the concoction. Free BKB charge out. It's not nothing.
Was definitely necessary as well. We saw top lane when he opted to kind of save the BKB or be economical about it. He caught the concoction and ended up dying for it, which actually essentially lost the fight for Vega thereafter. FN, he was the entire focus now that the Sand King was out of the picture, and did have to replicate out there when he was manning up with the Luna. So Mag gonna have to expend that BKB charge there. It was a 9-second charge, so as you mentioned, it isn't nothing for VP to get, but we'll go back to kind of this stalemate phase thereafter. And it doesn't look like Vega will put this Aegis to work, albeit not on the most impactful target in Sioma's Mirana.
Do have the Aegis still. I don't really know what happened to the cheese from
On
Vega.
the coddle sometime.
Oh, okay. Well, it's floating around, but it is daytime, so if there is a time to make a play for Vega, it'll be during daytime, so they get the Keeper of the Light benefits, plus the double life. It almost seems like they can't force anything. No one can really force anything. They have to wait for someone to get a little bit stupid and go a little bit too far out on their own, or be a little bit too aggressive, and maybe Sand King doesn't pop the BKB next time and gets picked off. Till then, seems like we have to settle in for the long haul, or just wait for someone to get a lucky initiation with the smoke, like what VP are doing. Good angle might just let them take a free win here.
Pasha jumping forward. His balls have dropped. He's right in here. FN, though, he's going to be immediately morphing up. He's going to pop the BKB, but he's not hitting as hard as he'd like to. Now the sleep is going to go out. It's going to completely isolate FN. Ramsey's just manning up, and the heal is there as well. They're going to have the disruption. They'll pop the Lincoln Sphere waveform forward from FN. He does have a replicate up at this point, so can get himself out of the fight. Pasha into the burrow. Mag in a little bit of trouble. Forces up to the high ground. And looks like Pasha the only one to have enough balls to initiate a fight there. But at the end of the day, no casualties for it. I think that was, okay, it was a 7-second BKB. I was going to say 6 for FN. So, again, nothing expended, but no casualties to be had. And, we've seen them have a difficult time bringing down this Morphling in the past. And even then, isolating him in the sleep are unable to do so.
An hour-long game. Finally, we have a fight, and surprise, surprise, no one dies. Oh, Mag. Let me jump by Pasha. Once again, the Caustic Finale. Gonna end up stunning himself. He does have the cheese. Can he pop it off? No, not quite. No BKB either. We have a casualty, ladies and gentlemen, and it's on a Sand King with buyback, so probably not going to be the most relevant kill in the world, but it's a kill nonetheless. This game is still being played, but that is not a good situation for Morphling to be in with his BKB up. You cannot kill everyone as Morphling, you're just not that powerful. And also, the enemies are getting healed with this Song of the Siren effect with the Aghanim Scepter, so you definitely can't kill anyone. He was doing actually no damage to the Luna, like it just wasn't happening, so that's it's awkward spot to be in for sure, going up against the Song that heals.
Gonna be difficult. They opted for the team fight oriented build in both their cores on Iceberg and FN as well, going for those early BKBs, and didn't really put them to work. And now in this phase of the game, they become less and less influential in these fights. Back to the top lane they go. Aegis will expire at this point. There is a cheese on the courier for Vega, but it does feel like they're kind of at a loss here for what to do. And there's a little bit more room for growth on this Luna, whereas FN, we can't quite say the same for him. He is fully 6-slotted, and you mentioned a little bit of extra stats, and the Ags can go into the Nyx Assassin as well as the Alchemist. So VP not entirely capped out as a unit here, and have kept Vega at bay. They just need to find that one opening to help take advantage of this creep equilibrium that they are going to get from the Alch.
Sand King's going to be respawning soon. His builds can't really get that much stronger. Are there any here? I mean, the Mirana is still getting quite a bit of cash as well. Travels for herself, plus the Blink Dagger. Lincoln Sphere is pretty standard, like, Ags, Lincoln's just Mirana build, and doesn't seem too terrible here, especially with already having the Scythe of Vice. I don't know, it doesn't seem like any of these kind of, late game breaking items, Ethereal Blade, Silver Edge, Heaven's Halberd, are really completely game breaking in favor of Vega. It seems like if there is an item that they truly desperately need, the Mirana is the one who is actually able to pick it up, given her farm rate and the fact that she has open item slots. Hell, at this point, as Mirana, do you just say screw it, I'm gonna go for Bloodthorn just for the most cost-effective damage for the team?
That's a fair item to pick up. I mean, it costs 7,000, but sure.
I mean, we're not going anywhere, right?
I can see it. Other than that, I mean, not much else in the way of progression for either side that we haven't touched upon. So it's basically going to come down to who can get the first kill in one of these larger scale engagements, and hopefully that there's a lane in the position that they can punish off the back of it. Manta Style going to be picked up for FN here, just kind of as an extra thing to bring around on the courier, throw out, push out the waves up against the Shadow Demon illusions. He's only been able to have the replicate up of either the Luna or the Alchemist at this point to help him shove out the waves. So a little bit of a luxury item, I suppose, for FN, but not going to be anything significant in team fights.
And Morphling's not really a hero that you can really play around with the refresher orb. I guess replicate always up is kind of nice, but I don't know. Probably more worth it to do this. Buy tons of sentries for your team. Buy the Tomes of Experience. Buy a backup Divine Rapier, break in case of emergency type item. But yeah, nothing really like 7-8 item slot worthy for almost all of these heroes on both sides. Unless you have some sick micro with the refresh orb, you can do double eclipse.
We're getting theoretical, folks.
I mean, there's nothing else happening.
Navi and Empire are sitting resident sleepering in their room waiting to face up against one another. Winner of that series will of course face the winner of this series, so do have another best of 3 coming your way after this one, and potentially another game in this series if Vega are able to close this one out. It does feel like VP a little bit in the driver's seat. Something to note as well is that the Manta did replace the Butterfly for FN, so he is actually going to keep this on his person in the fights. Being that the Luna did pick up an MKB, at this point the Butterfly becomes a little bit less effective. So not certainly...
VP, they're manning up. Drake pushed off of no item pickups, no Aegis, no Cheese, no nothing.
They've got one game at hand right now. Can't really blame them to try and end this series out. They're not completely backs to the wall at this point, and it doesn't feel like they'll get all that much stronger. Unstable Concoction going to be thrown out just onto the Replicant, and they will be able to bring it out. Moonlight Shadow is going to be popped. Pasha, he was found out burrowing. Could be in a little bit of trouble. Jump forward. They are going to find him with the Hex, but the Song immediately there. He will TP out. Lil will TP out. And we'll go right back to where we were 1 minute ago. And speaking of 1 minute, only 1 minute, as Lil did barely pick up his level 16 before that until the next Song of the Sirens available.
That was actually pretty close for Vega. They tagged the Nyx with the arrow and tried to force staff him into their base. It was just a little bit off. They had another force staff who was just a little bit closer. They could have gotten a pretty nice pick off there on the Nyx, who wouldn't have had a buyback. So obviously that didn't happen, but I guess you got to resort to some like cheesy stuff. We're gonna look for a pick off at this stage. Ooh, Ethereal Blade Mirana.
Yeah, we'll definitely see him turning his ass to the base from now on when he decides to burrow in that position. So unfortunately, Vega, great idea, but likely VP will be prepared for it going forward.
Do you turn when you're burrowed?
I think you just turn before burrowing. I mean, I guess technically you do, because you can turn to impale, but I'm not
or do you
sure
just impale backwards?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works with the actual position of the Nyx.
This is relevant to the state of this game, guys. We need to know if Nyx Assassin fires impale backwards or turns while burrowed, because that is the easiest way for Vega to get a pick off.
Tell us in chat. Iceberg, just gonna walk out. Try and gain some stacks of reactive armor. He's got 5k gold in his pockets. Timbersaw Moonshard is definitely a thing. A little bit of extra vision.
Yeah. I love it when my Timbersaw has a Moonshard and he has 2 Chakrams out. Such synergy.
Yeah. This is,
gotta get those right clicks in, dude. Move away from this
kills, 64 minutes in.
Ags BS. You don't need to cast spells. Just get Moonshards and Bloodthorn and Daedalus.
Yeah, they do have the Luna illusions to push the waves out at this point. So Radiant's not entirely necessary any longer, and that is certainly a route that no one can opt to go for. But it's a very expensive one, no less. At this state, 3 heroes of the Radiant do have buyback. Nyx Assassin for Pasha, fairly close to having his as well. Up forward. Now you're going to try and go in. They throw it, and they have to strike onto Ramses. Impale not going to connect onto anyone. Illuminate comes out. Like Carapace was there, but everyone a little bit far away. They get the Lucent Beam off onto Iceberg. Moonlight Shadow is there. They'll hex up Ramses, but there goes the reset once again of the fight. Ramses going to be healed up. BKB is going to be popped. They're looking to find someone here. And it looks like it may be Sioma on the Mirana. Eclipse is going to fly out. FN going to jump forward, man up. He's going to bring down Solo. Blinding Light, nicely placed, is going to split up the fight. Mag going to come through with the Impale onto Ramses. Ramses is trying to man up against Mag, but he'll get under the cover of the Sandstorm. FN's got no replicate. He's in trouble. He's trying to waveform away. Will be morphing strength. He gets Demonic Purrs up by Solo. Solo in trouble once again. Epicenter now going to fly through with all the BKBs down. No one taking a lot of damage, but he's still under Chemical Rage. He's going to turn and man up against FN. FN, he's morphed strength completely, and now he's going to drop. And that is 2 for 1, but the more important target going down on Vega's side. Vega leaping out on the Mirana, extracting themselves from the fight. And when all is said and done, they do force a buyback out on the Shadow Demon at the very least. Gem goes the way of VP's side, but Vega have a couple of backups. If my memory serves me right, they've still got 2 gems on their side. So really not the biggest loss. And at the end of the day, they do force the buyback from Solo.
The Alchemist just would not die. Ramses had Satanic available to him for the majority of that, and did pop it at the tail end. Vega are just able to kill off these 2 kind of supporty heroes of the VP's side, and that's almost seems irrelevant given how much damage and how much chaos the Luna and Alchemist are actually causing right now. They'll go ahead and kill Roche so that the Shadow Demon can get the Aegis and Cheese. They just don't have any slots for it at this point. But
well,
yeah,
he did
Vega,
use buyback, so Aegis is not nothing, I suppose, for the Shadow Demon.
It's Shadow Demon, and Cheese was...
Yeah, Ramses was out of mana, so Ramses just ate the
it.
cheese. Yeah.
Good calcium. But yeah, for Vega, they do lose their Morphling. They're unable to output enough damage to deal with both the Alchemist and Luna. And this is all with VP having a very, very early Song of the Siren. Didn't really do that much healing. Also messed up the setup on the Mirana because the Impale came out just a little bit too early. So things are looking pretty good for VP, as with the Aegis advantage on the Shadow Demon, going to try to go in for more.
Come forward, Burrow. Manta is not going to dodge the arrow. No one gets hit by it. He's fairly low. Impale will come out, and they'll have to Song to reset Iceberg. He's been isolated out, but they don't have all that much right-click for him. Unstable Concoction queued up. Impale goes out onto Iceberg with the Unstable Concoction as well. They don't have the right-click inbound, though, to bring him down. And if they stuck around, probably are able to bring down Iceberg there, but feeling a little bit unsafe as no one took a lot of damage before that song came out. Disruption and Song of the Siren there for VP. And VP are just a no fun zone right now. If anyone gets initiated on, reset button immediately hit from Lil. They will not have that once again now that they are, if they are going to press up high ground, but looks like they'll play it safe at least until they have that up again, which is 20 seconds from now.
That was pretty unfortunate for VP. Luna had legit 3 seconds left on cooldown for Eclipse. Just dropped that on the Timbersaw, and he's probably dead there. And I mean, you don't kill him off because he has buyback, and everyone should have buyback at this stage. Most of the heroes
I'm just
do.
leaving buyback status up at this point. Net worth largely
net worth
irrelevant. So
net worth is stupid. You don't need net worth to win games, guys. You just need buyback. But you know, it would have been enough to, I guess, kill off Timbersaw, and means that you could kill him off again, and then maybe you have a chance if all the stars aligned.
this is going to be a long haul for either side going up towards the high ground, just in the sense that, yeah, there are currently 8 buybacks available in the game. One of the heroes who does not have buyback has an Aegis in hand, so definitely a lot of lives on the board. 9 to 22, 70 minutes in. They are going to find Ramses with a Hex. He's got a disruption behind him, though. TP inbound from Mag. He is going to TP in. BKB is going to be popped by FN. He's going to try and man up against no one. Song is going to reset the fight and isolate out FN. They're going to try and bring him down. Eclipse going to be popped up a little bit early, and it won't really do all of anything here. Seema, though, he's going to catch an Impale. Could be in a little bit of trouble. Solo will be brought down. That's his second death. No buyback available to him. Sioma is going to be the trade. 1-for-1 support trade at this point. One of which has a buyback, though. And again, the fight will disperse as Vega will back out. FN, he used up his Satanic and will have to back away. So it looks like he replaced his Scotty with a Satanic at this point. You have so much gold, you're able to just kind of be flexible with your build. And he does opt for the sustainability in these fights. But FN just not hitting all that hard any longer. With the Satanic and the Manta style replacing the Scotty and the Butterfly respectively.
MKB is his only like real damage item, and Morph can take you, the ability just to get all the agility can take you pretty far, but you need like a Butterfly type item, like one of those really heavy hitting, high price items if you're really going to be delivering the DPS as a Morphling, even though he does have the Moon Shard. So just a pick off on either side, you know, exciting stuff once again, as it's not really going to lead to anything, but for Vega, they focused the Shadow Demon like the entire time during that fight, just in order to get a pick off that's kind of realistic. And then he has Aegis because, you know, he has an unstandard slot. He had the Aegis, so that wasn't necessarily the best situation for Vega. But by doing so, they forced the Naga Siren to use Song of the Siren mostly to save the Shadow Demon, which didn't even work and didn't give him any regeneration because he was respawning during that time. Again, none of this is really truly relevant because of the fact that now all of their cooldowns are back up and whatever. But just these small things, these small plays are trying to go for these support heroes.
Dagon Gaming. That's where we got to go with this game. I like your thinking, Sioma. Picks up the level 1 Dagon here. Another couple of, or at least one Aghanims picked up by no one. He'll give that one to himself. He has a point booster as well on the way to the last Ags, which can be given to the Nyx Assassin just for some extra survivability and stats. But there's the E-Blade from Mag. As these BKB durations start to drop, we've got, you know, E-Blade Dagon Gaming coming out from Vega side. I like their thinking here.
What was it at TI? EG eHome,
Yeah,
I want to
EG.
say?
It was EG, yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta nuke some fools. It's only level 1 Dagon right now, so a little baby energy blast. But you get enough of those level 1 Dagons, turn them into level 5s. These support heroes, these side items, very, very affordable Dagon, though expensive in total. It's very easy to script together the cash.
FNG got Spike Carapace stopped by the Illuminate, and the Illusions are doing good work on this Coddle, forcing him out. We'll give them a bit of time to poke at these racks. E-Blade gonna fly out onto Ramsey. He's gonna get glimmered up. Be able to make it back out. Greaser there. Arrow does connect. Jump forward. There's gonna be a Hex. Immediate reset button popped by Lil. Burrow Strike gonna come through with Mag under BKB, but that may have just sealed his own fate. Sleep is gonna drop now. Eclipse comes through onto 2. They'll both be brought down, neither of which have buyback at this point, buying up the E-Blade and the Dagon.
Dagon Gaming, not good.
Impale from long range is going to connect onto FNG. They're going to slow roast these Raxes out with the Disruption Illusions. And Luna, one of the best heroes in the game to be pushing base. 72 minutes in. Iceberg in trouble. Pops up his BKB. FN jumping forward. He's down as well. Both of which have buyback. They have to expend it. Immediately going for the throne is VP's side. Up 1-0 in this game. Vega had a major advantage at the 20-minute mark, and just were not able to press it hard enough. 2 tier 4s, Glaives bouncing between them like crazy from the Illusions. Will be able to bring both of them down. 2 heroes on the sidelines. VP still sticking around. FN and Iceberg do not have BKBs. Pasha zoning them out with his Impale, and no one just putting right clicks into the throne here. Mag barely gets enough for buyback. Pops his BKB immediately. Jumps forward. Song is there once again. It will be able to net up Mag and force him out, and they'll bring down the throne. Virtus Pro, 75 minutes in, are able to weather the storm and march up the high ground and take out Vega. Mike, I can't even point to any time in the game where this went wrong for Vega, but it just feels like they just did not deal with no one enough.
I mean, there was a pretty big blunder at the end when you buy out for Ethereal Blade Dagon, which means you don't have buyback anymore, and then get immediately picked off. I mean, I thought it was a good idea. I assumed they had buyback, and they didn't. Sand King was like 50 gold or something away from having buyback in order to buy that Ethereal Blade, and the Dagon Ethereal Blade just clearly didn't do enough for them. But if they had buyback there, they could have instantly respawned and actually had a chance. But there was a good portion during that last fight where VP were fighting 5v3, and we're seeing in these fights like it's dead even. It's really, really razor thin margins. Having 2 heroes not in the fight, that's just backbreaking. You need to be able to afford buyback, guys. It's a pretty good effect.
I mean, either way, you know, we talked about the merits of support Naga Siren at the very beginning of the game. Turns out 75 minutes in, having a 1 cooldown reset button that heals, not only stops the fight, but heals your allies is pretty darn good. And it just did not feel like you know, any drawn out fights were going to go the way of Vega. And that's perhaps why you see them go for this kind of E-Blade Dagon cheese at the end of the game. It's like, we just need to burst someone down before this sleep comes out. And they were just unable to do so. As you mentioned, not saving buyback, proving to be extremely detrimental for them there. And Virtus Pro will take this series 2-0 to go on to face in the semifinals of the upper bracket of the CIS region, the winner of Empire versus Na'Vi, which will be coming up next, guys. So be sure to stick around. Best of 3 coming your way. MRP Mike Lars DotaPit Season 5. Going to be Natus Vincier taking on Team Empire. So stick around, guys. We'll be back shortly.
gaming bets, online betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and Overwatch, StarCraft 2, the choice is yours. Express bets for multiple matches or live bets on the game you are watching right now. Know your way around Dota 2? Make a prediction for picks and bans.
Playing CSGO? Guess the number of rounds in a certain match.
Daily quests for all participants and all the best choice of payment systems. More than 600,000 users have already made their bets on the spectacular matches since 2011. EGB.com. You know for sure who's gonna win.
Butterflies on my insides have all gone away. You're not along for the danger, but I'm here to stay. I fall even deeper in the lies, they don't keep me away. You wanna know my secrets, so you keep crashing into my waves. I don't have the patience for that, not okay with waiting for that. I don't know what's changed in my head. Let's go somewhere and never come back. Tonight we lose control. No matter where we go, we're never going home. And you don't even know when I get you alone. You can lose your halo. What you waiting for? I've been feeling low. Won't you give me, won't you give me, won't you give me more?